Right, welcome to the afternoon session, and thank you for the extremely nice lunch. So this session will be about the welfare aspects of captive breeding. And I'd like to introduce you to Lea Tummeleht, who's a colleague of mine at the Estonian University of Life Sciences. And she has one foot in the Estonian University of Life Sciences and one foot in Tallinn Zoo. So she's going to talk about their efforts to conserve the European mink.
Hello to everyone. I'm very glad to be here and present my talk. My main passion lays in the questions how to communicate with animals under human care and how to make their life better by involving them voluntarily into their care and research procedures. During this year, I was happy to get the opportunity to work with European minks at the Tallinn Zoological Gardens. First, I would love to introduce to you this really charming small carnivore, European mink. It's an semi-aquatic Mustela species. It habitats mainly inland freshwater stream habitats, and it is probably the most endangered carnivores in Europe. It used to distribute all over Eurasian continent, beginning from western part of Spain, and the area went up to Ural mountains in Siberia. But to date, it has disappeared from most of its original habitats. There are still small populations resident in France, Romania, some parts of Russia, Spain, and Ukraine. This species got extinct also in Estonia, but due to the efforts of reintroduction by my dear colleague Tiit Maran and his working group, it is now reintroduced on one of the island of Estonia called Hiiumaa. But today I won't talk to you about wild minks, but the minks who are living in the Species Conservation Center at the Tallinn Zoo. This conservation center harbors annually about 100 individual European minks. Tallinn Zoo is the coordinator of the species European species program. So this our center is also serving as a conservation breeding center. The animals are accommodated individually in the sort of enclosures. They also have small water tanks because they like this water habitat, and also in the nature they like to hunt solitarily, and they only accept conspecifics during the breeding season. So about breeding then. Every spring about 10 to 25 females are assigned for breeding. It depends on the space available for new minks and also how many are released into the nature. This year it was 10 individuals, and as in every conservation breeding program, there is this a big question when it's the right time for the female. With minks, the ovulation lasts about 2-3 days, so it's quite critical to determine it in time, because the male has to be released into the enclosure of the female. and when it's not the right time, then the nasty fights will follow. So it's kind of critical. And for that, it has been established that vaginal fluid sampling is the most reliable measure. It begins usually in the mid of March, and some animals are getting into the estrus quite early, so they are going to be sampled only a couple of times, but some animals will delay this estrus up to beginning of the May, so those females get sampled during 1 month up to 25-30 times. How this procedure goes is that the female is captured into a small wire crate. The size of her vulva is measured, and the vaginal fluid sample by cotton swab is taken. So when the right cells are in majority, then it's the right time to breed. But I don't, I'm not a specialist in that area. But if you imagine that this measuring and taking vaginal samples will go on about for 30 days, then the breeding specialist of the zoo has asked me whether we could make this procedure more tolerable for the female, and also to involve the female voluntarily into this procedure, because it would be much more nicer when the female mink would come to us, present her genitals, and we can take the sample. And so we did. We made the plan. We put the sampling, like the sampling tube that was that is open from the both end onto the wall of the enclosure, and of course this training procedure took many steps, but here I will show to you it in a short video. So I don't know whether it's nicely seen, but this sampling tube is from the same wire material, and first we shaped the animal to come into this tube. Then we habituated her with sticking something to her private area, and then we sampled. So it's all in short video. Okei, tule välja. Suure laua. And then the procedure is done. We learned that the mink likes to be upside down, and then the procedure is like more easy. But it was really simple, and as we heard from the last presentation, capturing animals and restraining is really stressful. Then this kind of voluntary participation in this not very pleasant sampling episodes sounds to be much better. But we only started this year with 10 animals, so we haven't thought out yet how to measure the effect of this voluntary participation in terms of like physiological or measures or breeding success. But often when talking to people about training wild animals in the or endangered animals, then I get many different reactions and often like people are saying that training is something unnatural, what you do to your dogs, and it should be maybe not done to the endangered species. But actually, adult animals teach their offspring and train them all the time, and also our environment trains us all the time. For example, this Helsinki's weather has trained me to bring my winter coat. And why to train in conservation breeding center is, of course, because training is also enrichment. Those animals, though in quite enriched enclosures, they don't have that much to do. Then there is a very specific area of reducing abnormal behavior with training. But I think the main benefit is to facilitate veterinary procedures and also the routine procedures like weighting, shifting, like asking the animal to come into the transportation cage. And what is the most important part for me is that we give the animals choices. As with those female minks, they had always the opportunity to say no. I will stay in my nest and I won't come out. But it has not happened yet. They really, we pay a good salary, so that they really love it. they get chicken hearts. And to conclude my talk, then I really think that also with endangered animals in the breeding centers, training can help to reduce or eliminate stress for any kind of procedures they have to undergo. However, we really need more data how to measure this difference, because right now it's only the only very few studies are linking zoo animal training and some kind of welfare measures. Thank you.
Yeah, that was fascinating. So, has anybody got any questions or comments or their own experience?
My name is Lea Tummeleht. I'm from the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences. I was taking an interest to what you said about choice, giving the animals a choice. And in your case, it was obviously a choice to not engage or to engage, I suppose. But I think this ties to a broader debate in animal welfare right now that is about should we respect animals' autonomy and liberty, and concepts like is actually giving them a choice for various positive type things like choosing the right toy or whatever. Is that something that's going to help animals, or should we say that these constructs of liberty and autonomy are also human constructs and really only ones that really get something out of the potential to choose, and whereas animals might be happy just somebody choosing the right option for them, for example. Could you reflect a bit on choice there?
Thank you. It's quite a big debate is going on about those questions, and I think at least to give the feeling of being able to choose is very important. But of course, we have to give the educated choices. We cannot, unfortunately, the animal cannot choose to leave the zoo and say goodbye. And of course, as it is in human world, when you have too many choices, this can be also quite stressful. Like when you go to shop for new pants, it's crazy. so sometimes I think we could use some less choices, but of course zoo environment is not that enriching and full of choices. So I think for them we should include some more.
Right, anybody else?
Hi, I'm not really sure if this is if you're the right one to answer this question, because this is a little bit off topic maybe, but I was just wondering about the selection of parents. How do you do when you select animals? Because you can't really know when you don't have a natural selection, and how do you know that a youngster will survive?
Thank you.
In that case.
This is the job of my colleague at the breeding center, and it is actually done by the computer program. So they will take into this like relatedness, genetic relatedness into account, and probably also whether those animals have already offspring or not. But
so it's nothing regarding like skills and how well adapted that you think that the offspring will be to the environment, to the natural environment when they get out.
I don't think that is considered, because this is like done by Excel sheet, at least as far as I know. Yeah. But of course, when there are experienced parents, then there is already some information. But this is another very big topic at this mink breeding center, that there is a lot of abnormal behavior by males. They often attack females, or they just sit there passively. So the behavior problems are quite big in captive minks.
Thank you.
Right, great. Thank you very much, Lea.
Thank you.